Correct.
Welcome friends to Hope Alive, Hope Live. Okay, so today I'll be talking about homeopathy and psychiatry. I first became a psychiatrist, not too happy about everything I did as a psychiatrist, and then I went into homeopathy. So by default, I saw many psychiatric cases. In a way, it was very good for me because I could learn exclusively more about psychiatric patients, but also it helped me formulate a way of looking at patients because I saw these patients coming for all psychiatric disorders. So what I do is, generally in my practice is, what I've seen is all psychiatric disorders which we see, all depend upon what is the ego strength of a person. What I mean by this is, what is their inner strength to cope with stresses of life. We know we are all going through stresses now, but there are some strong people who can face these stresses, and there are some weak people who cannot, are very vulnerable and cannot cope with those stresses. So I generally see patients who come to me are from very early age or very old age. Now when I talk about the early age and very old age, I don't mean real age. I'm talking about the inner age of a person. In the inner age, I can be a 50-year-old person, but in my inner age, I could be just a person in the womb. We all know this from how we have studied our mineral cases. Now we also study in the same way plant cases using the Yakir chart, and now we also see animal cases based on the animal chart which I have developed. But the whole idea is to see at what age you belong. Psychiatric disorders belong to very early age or very old age. Now let's say you have a very young child or a very old man who has to cross a very busy street. He finds it very difficult because he'll be very anxious, he'll be panicked. The cars are rushing and he doesn't know how to cross the road. Similarly, to cross this whole journey of life is very difficult for a child or for a grown-up, and they break down. Now what is true for psychiatric conditions also, I believe, is true for all illnesses. But psychiatric illnesses are seen in the early age and in the old age, and based on this whole idea which I saw recurrently happening in all my cases, I came up with this idea of personal evolution. So this is all about what I do. I also study the structure of the mind, something of the type what Freud has talked about, the id, ego, superego. Now why is this important? In this id is our instincts, ego is, as I told you, the way we face life, our human face, and then we have superego, the morality, the society which puts pressure on us. Now all psychiatric illnesses depend on how strong your ego is. Whenever, because of stresses, the ego comes under pressure, the first thing a person experiences is anxiety. So anxiety is not an illness, but a warning, a signal, which is telling the person that something is wrong in your life, put it straight. So anxiety is an indication that your ego is now facing a lot of pressure, either from inside of you or from outside of you. As this pressure goes on building, your ego starts becoming weaker and weaker. And then there is a big struggle to hold itself. You want to control yourself, you want to hold yourself, you don't want to break down. And then at this stage is when you get obsessive compulsive disorder. Your inside tells you something, but your outside says, no, I don't want to break down. It's like your inside will tell you, if I am a snake or I am a mammal, that I am dirty. And I want to say, no, I'm clean. And then there's a fight between my two parts of me. And then this is a real big struggle because you never know who wins. And there is a fear of insanity. Finally, in the last stage, the ego breaks down. And when the ego breaks down, you start living your inner world and you start feeling completely out of touch with reality, outer reality. This outer reality is maintained because of the ego, and when the ego breaks down, you start living your inner reality, what Rajan Shankaran calls as the other song. So your other song governs. you. And then that is what we call as psychosis. Very often we see conditions like schizophrenia there. So this is the genesis, from anxiety to OCD to schizophrenia. So everything finally depends on your ego strength. And as I already told you, young child, his ego is not yet formed because he doesn't have his own sense of self. As he grows, his sense of self becomes stronger. And an old man is also what we call as leprosyphilitic miasm. As you grow old, the destructive process goes on. So again you start becoming weak. Your ability to take stresses are low. So these are the people who break down. So we see very often schizophrenia and conditions like this by just studying the inner age of the person. So when I have a case of schizophrenia, I'm first going to look, is he a child or is he an old man? Because the symptoms of a child will be very different from that of an old man when that's what your inner age is. And then based on it, I start looking on the maps, whether it's a plant map or a mineral map or an animal map, what sort of remedies can come up. So this is how I generally see. I've been treating now patients for many years, and I've been able to make a chart sort of what sort of remedies would come up if I'm seeing a case of panic disorder, if I'm seeing a case of social phobia, if I'm seeing a case of obsessive compulsive disorder or a bipolar disorder or a schizophrenia. This system which I'm talking about, studying the inner age or the personal evolution of a person, has helped me a lot in treating not only psychiatric disorders but all sorts of illnesses which come to me. And this is what I teach, this is what I've written in my book, and this is what my Hope lectures are all about. I would really like and appreciate if you all will read them, hear them rather, and you will see how gradually I've begun with panic disorders, and then gradually I'll be talking about other psychiatric disorders, and you will also learn the whole system of looking at these patients from this particular perspective which I've just talked about.
So any small case example that you would like to give us on how would you go about it?
Case it's like somebody, I don't know, I can't think of a case right now because my lectures are full of cases. Probably you can see them.
So there's another question. The judgment of the age can be different for different doctors. So how can we come to a common conclusion?
We are not judging, it is a science. We have complete themes of different ages. A womb stage will have certain symptoms. You'll see a person in infancy will have, it's not what I judge. It's not like me saying, that, oh, he looks like a kid or he looks like an old man. It is not as casual as this. There are specific symptoms. One of the person, even you, could go to the Google and check for Erik Erikson's work. He has talked about 8 stages of human development. So what will be the stages when you're in the oral stage, anal stage? Freud also has talked about it. What will be in the early childhood? And then you will see in school age what are the symptoms of adolescence, symptoms of adulthood, of old age. So at every age there are certain things, your issues. Every age has an issue. A child is all the time thinking about needing attention, needing his nourishment, needing his food, he's taken care of, he needs his family. So at every age, what you talk will give you an issue. Like in the mineral kingdom, you have natrum line has specific issues, calcium line has specific issues, silver line has its own issues, gold line series also has its own issues. So through the issues we know the age. It's not a guesswork as one would think.
So some more insights about your experience with mollusk cases?
Mollusks have given quite a few seminars, probably a book also might come out of it. So mollusks generally are sea creatures. So how I would see them as, first in the animal kingdom, they are the invertebrates. Now it would be too much for me to discuss all this. And within that, they are the sea creatures. So my whole chart, animal chart which I have made, is first divided into whether it's an invertebrate or a vertebrate. Invertebrates are all centered around themselves. Invertebrate and vertebrates think about themselves in relation to the others. And then we have to find out whether it's a sea animal, land animal or the air animal. So mollusk is in the sea animal and in the invertebrates. The whole idea is it is like being in the womb. They are soft creatures which are in the shell. And the mollusks are three types. The one which completely wants to be in the shell, which is the bivalves. Then the second stage is where you cannot remain all your time inside. This is not something which evolution will like. So the next second step of development of a mollusk is to come out of it. But coming out is very dangerous. And then we see the second stage, which is the gastropode. You come out, it is very dangerous. But when it is safe, you can come out. And when there is danger, you go in. But when you go in, again you feel claustrophobic and then you want to come out. So this is the second stage of development which you see in the gastropods. Gastropod means the one which move on the belly, the snails. So you have this duality. Out I am free but dangerous. Inside I am safe but there is no life. Something like Homeopathic, similar to what you see. And then finally is the third stage where I don't need the shell anymore. I want to go out into the world. And that is the time of cephalopod. They have either a rudimentary shell or no shell. And they are so what is their way? They don't have anything to protect. So the only way they can protect is by camouflage or by speed. So whenever you see mollusk, you will see symptoms of the womb stage because of the shell. You will see natrum line symptoms because all of them have the sea creatures, and the main ingredient of the sea is sodium chloride. And then because of the shell and its qualities, you see a lot of calcium line. And in the cephalopod, because they go out and they want freedom and want to go out, you will see a lot of symptom of the adolescence or the silver line. So you see very often sepia will also have a lot of interest in creativity and in art, because that is the air quality or the adolescent stage, where the movement is important, freedom is important. So it is a journey from being totally inside the shell to being totally outside the shell. And depending upon what are the predominant features of that particular case, we can come to either a bivalve or a gastropod or a cephalopod. And another thing which I very, very much use in my cases, I just happen to say, so I remember, is the elements. And elements also how they reflect age. Like the water element, earth element, air element and the fire element. It may be too difficult to discuss, it may be not right time to discuss all this, but this is what I use very, very often, and I can not tell you how much it helps me in my cases. Because I first see in this case what is predominant. And this also again is a science. And this has been used by many, even in Chinese you will see, even in astrology you will see, in many places they have used these elements. But I use this to understand the age of the person. Every element for me represents one age.
The next question is on your experiences with LAC group in general. Are they very good for psychological cases?
LAC are very good for psychological cases. First of all, LAC means natrum line, and natrum line means emotions. So you see a lot of emotional problems coming. I see a lot of... Another thing is LAC has a part where you are in conflict with your inside. So most of the feeling dirty inside. So I see a lot of obsessive compulsive neurosis. So LACs definitely are important. Either you are struggling with your sexual desires or your aggressive desires. Want to be in a group or want to be out, feeling out of the group, needing a family. So these are very important basic issues. But even in the animals, you have to see what is the level of development. All the mammals are not at the same level. You cannot see a sheep and a lion as the same level of development. Sheep is like natrum, lion is like aurum. They are complete opposite polarities of development. So I see a lot of problems I'll see much more in lac ovinum, which is the sheep, because they don't have their own ego. And as I said, all the problem is of no ego.
Thank you for your time, sir. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our viewers?
Just that you enjoy homeopathy. I feel very blessed that I am doing homeopathy. I couldn't have been more happy than the fact that I am doing homeopathy, which I love. I love doing homeopathy and I enjoy every bit of it. And when you enjoy anything you do, automatically everything gets downloaded in you. And I'm sure all of you who are listening have this potential to become excellent homeopaths. We all have been gifted with certain things and we have to use that and actualize all our potentials and bring best out of us and feel fulfilled in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.